Here's the book I'm going to try to review today. It's by Louis Armand, and I'll get to the title in a minute. But first, let's, because I'm not very good at reviewing books, not very good at summarizing books. I'm going to do a little better today, I think. But just to make sure, I'm going to read the back of the book. The Dog Days of 1983, the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, Ronald Reagan and Yuri Andropov dancing into the sunset. Hess, Asher, and Wolf are orphans chances brought together in a small Baltic seaside town in Germany. 20 years on, the long, hot summer of the Israel-Lebanon war, Hess, a down-on-his-luck screenwriter, finds himself in the Mediterranean drinking to forget a wasted marriage. Wolf, haunted by his father's murder, is drawn into the nebulous world of international terrorism. When Asher, a failed artist, commits suicide, all the stakes are changed. Or are they? With the Cold War, sex, and punk rock throbbing in the background, Hess must confront his past, seeking to salvage dignity from defeat. Louis Armand is the author of 4 previous novels. By now, it's many more than 4, including the extraordinary combinations. Now, so Louis Armand wrote the combinations, some sort of maximalist novel. I'll do better than that when I reread that and review that novel. But I'm reading Louis Armand's books because I've been in a reading slump for some time, and I've tried several things to get going. I thought time for me to read all of William Burroughs, or at least 4, Naked Lunch, and then the trilogy. And I gathered the books, and I just didn't do it. I also ordered the complete novels of Flannery O'Brien, a favorite of mine, and underread by me, but he's a favorite of mine. But the same is true of Samuel Beckett, whose complete fiction I also got. And neither of them got me going. I think one of the reasons is I find them so funny, line by line, that I'm not propelled forward. I have to be in a Flannery O'Brien or a Samuel Beckett mood. Well, this attempt is off to a good start. I chose this book first because I saw this about the 2 mentions of Lebanon, the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, and then 23 years later, the invasion by Israel of Lebanon that was somewhat abortive. They were unable to get past the humps in the ground, and they just kept losing to Hezbollah. Came out a sort of draw. Of course, a draw with Israel means a lot more people are killed in the other country, which would be Lebanon. But they were losing too many people, and Hezbollah was fighting a good semi-guerrilla war, and Israel could not advance. And so they pulled out. They're doing it again right now. And I think they're suffering a great deal more than they thought they would. I don't know what. The only thing they're doing different is what they learned by attacking Gaza, which is that nobody really gives a shit, no matter how much you bomb an Arab country or a Middle Eastern country or whatever characterizes these countries, a country bordering on Israel, perhaps. You can bomb the shit out of Gaza. It doesn't matter how many people you kill. Nothing will stop you. The United States, particularly, will not stop you. And They're not. There's more attention to Lebanon. France has gotten involved to no effect, and well, so far there's been no effect except for the uh, maleficent effect of the bombings themselves. To kill Nasrallah, they used, I think it was 82,000 pound bombs. Now it's come out that there's a great deal of depleted uranium being dropped. Um, I think that's not 100%, but it's from Mondovice, which is a really good source. So anyway, I was interested in the Lebanon part, but I needn't have been, because that is sort of accurately described here in the sense that that's the time that this took place. It provides the a sort of background, and one of the characters, Wolf, actually goes to Lebanon, but he's not a main character in that sense. He's not being followed in the book. The people being followed in the book are Hess and his wife, Luce. And that leads me to a pause wherein I have to pronounce the title. Now, I think we all like French words that are commonly used, like Jean Paul. We can all say Jean Paul or Jean Claude. Killy was the first one I remember, the skier. And words like puissant. We know that we can say them in a fun way, and that we're close enough that we don't care about real accuracy. I don't think any French person says puissant the way I do. Well, actually, I should say it better. I should admit that I'm not saying it right. But we don't like French words that are pronounced more or less like we would pronounce this. Now, how would you, as an English speaker, pronounce the word canicule? Well, in French, it's canicule, because I heard a French woman pronounce it. I looked it up on my telephone. Maybe I called someone in France. I don't know. She picked it up and said canicule, but that's about how you pronounce it, canicule, canicule. But there's nothing French about it. We just sound foolish to ourselves when we say it in as French a way as we can. So that's my problem with the title. It's a great word, though. It reminds me of the word. Oh shit! Now I forgot. Never mind. If I think of it, I'll tell you. But anyway, a word that has great meaning, but some say doesn't sound good. It means dusk. What is that word? Well, we're not going to waste time on my mental defects. So here's the book, Canicule. It's about, as it says on the back, 3 men, but also 3 women. They didn't make the back cover. Well, back covers are not always. There's not a lot of room on a back cover, but how would they have put the others in there? There's Marita, who's the ex-wife of Asher, the suicide. And then there is Luce, the wife of Hess, and she plays a big role in this. And then there's Ada, which is what Hess calls a friend or hanger-on of Luce. Luce is in the south of France on the Mediterranean. I can't remember the name of the town, and I couldn't pronounce it anyway. But doing she's writing a book. And so most of the present day stuff takes place there, and that's most of the book. Actually, there's just enough of what happened with the 3 of them, and it's not the kind of book where there's some great secret or some horrible event in the past. They just happen to be orphans, all 3 of them, and so they're friends, and they went their own ways. One became a no account painter, or maybe that's not the best way to put it, but a painter, Asher, um, one who did not succeed in any way, and Hess, who's a, scenarist, a film writer, and the book, interestingly, is written at times in a very cinematic way, deliberately cinematic. Look here, here's the scene. The next book I'm reading by him is called Obscure, and that I've only read the first few pages. Is written very much in as a centerist would write it. Well, interestingly, I was in Prague for the Prague Microfest and invited, I think, mostly as a publisher of literature in English in Europe. And if you look at my last YouTube, I did a mediocre job of interviewing Louis Armand, and I asked him a question based on one night of just kind of glancing through all the books that I picked up at the festival, because I saw books by him that I didn't see advertised anywhere, like Amazon Germany, for instance. And so like this one, and I didn't know about, I knew he had a bunch of books. I asked Phil Friedenberg, what should I get? And he said Vampire and Glitchhead sold together. I'll be getting to that book for sure. And it's a monumental work that is going to be a blast. A novel of revenge and a lot of pictures. And one thing that I learned from Louis Armand was he said, I was going to talk about something else first. So what I was going to talk about first was how I looked through some of his books, and I think I was maybe looking through Vampire, and I thought, I noticed a lot of lists, or a couple of lists, and I thought, I asked him, well, you use word association a lot. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he didn't say, I sure do. And he probably was just kindly silent because I was so wrong. This book is written with precision, and it's written with sentence after sentence that make you stop and think. And I didn't even think of writing or marking a lot of them till the end. And I thought, well, I'll just give a couple of examples. This is the kind of sentence that you'll find throughout, page 185 out of 221. And something Wolf said about how no other animal is asked to form an attitude towards its own extinction, an attitude and a judgment. There are sentences like that throughout. This is a thinking man's novel. Maybe it's very European and existential. I think it's an existential novel. There's a lot going on with Hess, and it's very interesting. I want to say one other thing about the book is that I'm not sure how many times I've read about a rape in a book, but there is a rape in this book, and not to give too much away, I think it was as brilliantly done as could be. I was thinking at first I would read the rape scene because it's only 2 paragraphs and medium-sized paragraphs, but I think I would give away too much without expressing too much. But the way that the rape is dealt with throughout is it strikes me as very, very likely accurate, and I think that's mostly to do with the kind of writing that allows for psychological um, penetration and philosophical speculation at the same time. And you can see from this sentence, I'll read it again. And something Wolf said about how no other animal is asked to form an attitude towards its own extinction, an attitude and a judgment. So then there's the occasional really spectacular bit, and I've got one of them written down, or not written down. I keep saying written down. Here it is. I love this paragraph. Luce said something non-committal, keeping her gaze fixed on a distant point somewhere out at sea. While she spoke, Hess watched, fascinated, as a woman at a neighboring table set to work on a seafood platter the size of a toilet seat. That made me laugh. But I know what he's talking about. We're in Isola, we have seafood platters, and they're pretty big. They're not the shape of a toilet seat, often. Sometimes they probably are, but they're big. So about the size of a toilet seat. Her bovine face seemed to graze around the edges of a large calamari that stood in the middle of it like a marine Priapus, and cinctured with raw oysters in their shells, king prawns, green mussels, giant sea snails, assorted other crustaceans marinated in a piquant brownish discharge, suspiciously like intestinal scoria. Now, the words that you might not know in there are scoria, which is one synonym is slag, the bad bits in a metal, a sludge of metal, the stuff that's got to be gotten out of there. And also lava is another meaning. And cinctured is another one. It may be an invented word. It's when I looked it up, there were many mentions of a usage by Benjamin Britten, and I think that's probably where it came from. But it's perfectly. It's like a wreath, like a wreath that's enclosing something. So and tinctured with raw oysters in their shells. And I can see that on a seafood platter and all the rest of it too. The brownish discharge. Spectacular paragraph. Finally, just a little bit longer piece. Page 203 out of 221. As the ground leveled out, the shadows dissolved into a sort of visual disturbance, a hiatus between animate and inanimate. Upon the summit stood the fortress rock of La Guardia. Behind it, the black bitumen foothills of the Spanish frontier, framing a landscape whose parts had been laid blindly atop one another as though a pair of idiots had taken turns at composing it. The sky hung down like a grayish, malleable body on a gallows, one bulging moon eye slit side to side. Atop his mountain, Hess was perhaps closer than he ever expected to be to those caves to which Wolfe had so fervently wished humanity to return. Neanderthal caves, I believe. A humanity still wondering if it had taken God's place. When gods die, Nietzsche said, they always die many kinds of death. Thought Hess, man dies only once, yet resurrects himself countlessly. He laughed aloud at his own sagacity. The dead are more active in this world than the living. What a democracy we have in store for ourselves. Quite a day for me to be reading that, huh? Given what happened in the United States yesterday. On top of it, I want to say one more thing that Mr. Armand said to me during our interview, is that he realized that there is no such thing as literature. And what he meant was that it's not a thing in and of itself with borders and so on, that there are the creative arts, creative acts, and they're not to be separated. And which may have something to do with the fact that there's so much cinematic reference in his works. But in this one also, he likes to give you a lot. And this is something that makes you have to read the book twice. That and the epigraphs. There are almost every chapter has an epigraph. There's a lot to think about there, and we don't always stop and think, but about the epigraphs, we read them, and I don't know how much we concentrate and then apply that to the chapter. But this is a book to teach, and if I were teaching literature, I would teach this book, and then I would have my 3 to 5 reads and try to figure out where every picture is from. Each chapter has a photograph, and I'll just show you a couple of them. Okay, there's that looks like a film still. My cinematographer, my guy, playing on a tarmac. What could that signify? This is a little bit after the age of constant. Oh, and the title, celluloid. Okay, I don't think it's not cellulose, it's celluloid. So then a couple more here, definitely from a film. But my guy Sasha has been away, and I've been unable to talk to him. I wanted to go through these photographs and see how many of them he could recognize. Okay, this one looks to me like Munich, but I don't know. I didn't. Okay, 1972. Oh, the Munich Olympics in Black September. Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah. Now I remember that I did see that, and so there we go. That isn't an actress. Who is? No, it's not Jane Fonda, but it could have been under different circumstances, very different circumstances. Then who would Henry have been? Are we in the Baltic here? I don't know. This could also be the Mediterranean. It's hard to say. Rictus. Here's a funny one. Yeah, I know that era of French film, but I don't know where it's from. So I can do this all day on my own. This is funny. Shot for shot. So you have each of these is certainly precisely chosen, just like the words and the sentences are precisely chosen, just like that guy's mustache was precisely chosen. And to fully appreciate this book, I would have to. This is funny. This is very, very good. I like this. It fits the chapter quite well too. Escapades of the youth in the Baltic, on the Baltic coast when they were young. Now, what is this all about? This is Freud and Marx. I don't know if you can see that. Freud, Marx. Yeah. So what I'm not doing is telling you what this book means. Look at Marcello Mastroianni. That's actually described in the book. Some of them are there for clear reasons. Some you have to think a bit about it. Probably all of them, if you really concentrate, you can. Although sometimes, like with this one, there's an epigraph from Eisenstein. Is she from Eisenstein? Could be. She looks almost sculpted. I wonder if you can get that sense. Yeah, I think you can. She looks like a sculpture, but she's not. I guess, right, if it were today, we'd say she was AI. 25 minutes. My God, this is way too long. And the dead woman. In this book, the dead woman could be someone whose day is described. There's some extraordinary description throughout, and I guess one reason I can't really come to terms with the book enough to say more definitive things about what it's about is because it's a book to be thought through rather than followed in terms of the characters. You don't at any point expect excitement to break out, but at the same time, it's fascinating because it's so closely observed and so philosophically observed. It truly is, I think it is an existential masterpiece, and it may be called Canicule, but that means heat wave. Did I say that already? That it means heat wave? Yeah, it's heat wave. It takes place during I think the hottest year on record at that time. It's probably not even close anymore. But on the southern French coast, not far from Perpignan, not far from the Spanish border, as you noticed from one of the passages I read. I'm not going to give this up, so don't ask me for it. But if you can find it, maybe it is readily available, and I don't know. If it's not, it's Equus Press, and I'm sure that you can contact Equus Press and order the book from them. And if not, I'm sure that they will help you find it. So, by the way, the paper is really nice. It's actually slightly ribbled. I think that's what I like to call it, ribbled. But it's tactily nice paper, very nice paper. The book's really well put together, and so is the next one, also by them. It was actually written before this one. Takes place to some degree in Trieste, my local city, and I'll be getting back to you with that. Thanks for listening, and next time when I review Clara Obscure, I will have a list of Louis Armand's books, or maybe before then, I'll talk a little bit about the Prague Micro Festival and/or Prague itself, and so look forward to that. And thanks for bearing with me. This is all for a good cause. This is the man who's gotten me reading again. Goodbye.